There is a report out that the average life expectancy, as we know, for a cat or a dog is between 10 and 15 years, but that there's a new scientific breakthrough which could give your pet a longer life. And Dr. Carol Hurley, a veterinarian with the Waltham Center for Pet Nutrition in England, has developed what they're calling a kind of superfood. It's an additive, and she's with us this morning from our London bureau. So this is antioxidants, Dr. Hurley, which do what?
Yes, good morning. It's a unique blend of antioxidants that, when added together, they work in combination to help protect the cells at the level of the DNA. So they help to prevent damage to DNA in the cells.
We know that humans can take antioxidant supplements themselves, but you're saying you're actually able to measure the amount of DNA repair or lack of damage?
That's right. We already know that the DNA that exists in every cell is damaged up to 10,000 times a day by what's called free radicals. And this is a normal process. It happens from exposure to sunlight, to pollution, from stress, from routine exercise.
But so what are the implications of DNA in longevity? In other words, if what you're able to measure in longevity, how long can these pets live?
Right. Well, as DNA damage starts to accumulate, we start to see age-related diseases such as arthritis, cancers, cataracts, all the sorts of things that we see in people with aging, our pets can get as well. And so what we've seen is, by being able to test the amount of damage in cells, we've adapted a test from the human field at the Waltham Center, and we've been able to combine these ingredients fed to pets and found that in dogs fed this food for 2 months, there's a 26% decrease in the amount of damage to their DNA.
But you don't know exactly what that means
in
terms of years achieved, extra years.
Well, yeah. Not yet, and that's what we're doing, is following these animals along. The idea is that, for instance, it takes only one cell to be damaged to start the process of a cancer or start the process of an age-related disease. And so what we're looking for is that these animals have the best potential for their lifespan.
All right,
so
well,
they
everybody's
have a slower aging process.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Everybody's going to be following this, of course, not only for animals, but for humans as well coming up. And thanks for telling us about it. I gather it'll be available in about a year. So we'll let everybody out there know. But let's get the weather. Tony Perkins is here.
All right, thank you, Diane. Before we get to the weather, every day our producers survey the crowd to find out interesting things, interesting stories, and we have learned a couple of things this morning. In fact, we're starting a new feature. First of all, we've noticed that for some reason, several people in our audience have worn various shades of purple. Just by coincidence, did you all call each other and plan this?
No.
No. And even Eddie, come here, is on our crew. He's wearing purple as well. And Jeremy is also wearing a shade of purple. Very odd. I'm not sure why that is. All right, get out of here. Now, the other thing that we've noticed, and we're very excited about this, almost everyone in our audience is the same height. Can you pan around? Isn't that, except for just a few people. You will have to leave. I'm sorry. And this gentleman on the end, sir, with the glasses, you'll have to leave. I'm sorry, you can't be a part of the crowd today. All right, now that looks better. I'm happy. Take a look at what's happening with weather conditions around the nation. We start with the high temperatures for today. It is going to be a warm one in the south, but these temperatures are pretty much seasonable for most of the nation. 70s in the upper Midwest. We'll see some 80s throughout much of the U.S. Desert Southwest, of course, over 100 degrees again. Take a look at the highlights for today. New York City, beautiful day here. 80 degrees today. St. Louis, 83. Albuquerque, you're looking at 87. San Diego, a pleasant 74. Where will we see rain? We'll see some scattered showers in portions of the west. Most of the west will be dry. Look for possible flooding in southern Texas, central and southern Florida, where the rain will be heavy. That's a look at what's happening with the weather around the nation. Now, here's what's happening in your neighborhood.
Good morning. Certainly no rain here. Nothing but dry skies. Next chance for rain not even until Thursday afternoon, with a slight chance of a shower. Today and tomorrow mostly sunny, highs in the upper 70s and low 80s. Thursday could see a slight chance of a shower, and then smooth sailing once again.
You have to leave too. You're a little too tall. Thank you very much. This weather report brought to you by Walmart. If you'd like to be in our studio audience, you have to be 5'8" and just send an email to abcnews.com. Diane, back to you.
Okay, Tony. Well, an ad for the new HBO series, The Mind of the Married Man, says, in marriage, no one can hear you scream. Why am I laughing?
Yeah, right.
But what would it be like if we could hear inside the man who was married? Thoughts, everything from infidelity to a lot of other things that we can't talk about on morning television. Well, the new series is called, despite what he wants it to be, the male version of Sex and the City. And to hear more about what goes on in the mind of its creator and star, we're joined by Mike Binder, and it's good to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be here. And I actually don't mind. I think Sex and the City is a great show. So you know, I don't mind. It's just the show. It's such an easy handle to say. It's you know, a male version of Sex and the City. But.
Okay. Where do you start when you say, I'm going to do a series about the mind of a married man? What's the first thing you start doing? Jotting down your own thoughts?
I start preparing for my wife to move out is what that's the first thing. No. Actually, she likes the show. My wife is, but I think the idea was to do a show that tries to capture how men talk when their wives aren't around. And you know, one of the things they talk about the most is sex. So that's really what people have caught on to what we're doing, you know. But I think that there's a lot of things that people talk about, and
what are the principal differences in the way men talk about sex and women do?
I think that men are a little more two-faced about it.
How do you mean?
They talk one way with their friends, and then with their wives, they're a completely different person. And I think that's the truth, and I think that women kind of know that and are more comfortable with it. I really, one thing I think doing this show, you kind of learn that women don't want to hear everything. They kind of assume that we're messed up, that we're a little screwed up. And it's like, just go talk to your friends about that, please.
All right, we have a clip from the show, and it just gives you a little sense of something when, well, he's talking about something his wife found.
I found a file open, one I never leave up.
Dad, I found porn on your computer.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Like pornography?
Yes.
What kind?
What does it matter what kind? There's pictures of naked women, Doug. Naked, not my wife women. What does it matter what kind?
She hadn't said anything yet?
Not Donna. She'll gather her facts first. Find the site I downloaded it from. Trace the credit card bill.
That wasn't me, by the way. One of the writers came up with that whole storyline. I have purely work of research on my computer.
Right. You've heard about such things, I'm
Absolutely.
Sure. Do men talk as much about their appearances, or ever about their appearances?
I don't think so. Not in my experience. Some men do. You know.
Do men talk about relationships at all, or do they save that for home?
Yeah, no. They talk about relationships. They do. They talk about their relationships a lot with each other, more than at least the men that I hang out with. You know, you don't know. There's so many men out there. I think there's a good 1,500 of them at last count. But the ones that I know, the 1,400 that I know, seem to talk about, you know, relationships in terms of what isn't working more than what's working.
In all your research for this, what did you learn about the mind of a married man that you didn't know?
What I think is interesting, and where the show's point of view is, men want to be married. Men like to be married. They like to complain about it. But if you see a guy who's married get divorced, you know what he does? He runs out and he gets married again. Men like to be married, and single men dream of finding the right person to be married. They're not single because they want to be single. They always think one day they're going to get married. Men like to be married, and that's the point of view of the show.
And very funny.
Thank you.
It's what I've heard. The word around the shop here is that it's truly funny, and it's called The Mind of the Married Man, and it premieres, you should know, on HBO. When does it premiere?
Tonight. There's a sneak preview tonight, and then Sunday night it starts airing after Band of Brothers.
All right. Coming up, men get their revenge. And we'll be right back.
ABC 7 is on your side
by making your mornings easier.
And it starts here with our Good Morning Washington promise. from the time you wake up to the time you walk out your door.
You'll get your full weather and traffic updates every 10 minutes on the 7s.
And in between, the latest news from overnight. What happened while you slept?
It's our promise to you.
Weather and traffic every 10 minutes on the 7s.
Plus the news from overnight.
It's the Good Morning Washington Promise, and it's only on ABC 7. Proud to be on your side.
Behind in the polls, Mark Earley's launched false attacks on Mark Warner. The press says Earley's taken the low road. His attacks are absurd, repulsive, ugly. Earley's claims about Mark Warner are dead wrong. Fabrication, a smear. They insult voters. It's typical old-style politics. Mark Earley, no positive plan. Negative ads that don't tell the truth. Virginia deserves better.
Vehicle history report, extensive.
When it comes to buying a used car, do you really know what you're getting? Toyota does, because beyond getting legendary Toyota quality, dependability, and reliability, there's a few other important things you get too.
Like 6.9% APR financing up to 60 months on all certified used Camrys, Solaras, and Corollas. Toyota certified used vehicles. We're good on our words. Available exclusively at your Toyota certified used vehicle dealer.
CarMax.com has a great selection of used cars online. We carry nearly every make and model. Find a car from any of the thousands we sell nationwide and have it transferred to the store nearest you. CarMax, the way car buying should be.
You asked for used cars you can depend on, so we created CarMax, where every used car comes with a 30-day limited warranty and a 5-day money-back guarantee. We even offer extended warranties that protect you for up to 100,000 miles. CarMax, the way car buying should be.
ABC next Tuesday. The season starts here. Dharma and Greg, the episode you've been waiting for.
Dharma, I'm so sorry.
Spin City, the moment you thought would never happen.
I'm back.
And from the creator of NYPD Blue, Tom Everett Scott and Emmy Award winner Kim Delaney.
You want to play hardball with me, I will break your skull.
You already tried that once.
Philly. Dharma and Greg, Spin City, and the series premiere of Philly. ABC next Tuesday. The season starts here.
Sarah, the Duchess of York, is with us. It's always nice to have her back. No stranger to overcoming obstacles in her life, as you probably know, from weight problems to the emotional problems of her darkest days following her divorce from Prince Andrew. This week, she's off to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where, in what is believed to be the first challenge of its kind, she's going to help residents of an entire county overcome their obstacles to losing weight. And she joins us now. Off to Waukesha County in Wisconsin, you are.
Morning, Charlie.
A third of the people there, supposedly overweight. That's about 300,000 people, I guess, in rough terms. Each of them takes off 10 pounds. That's 3 million pounds you're going to help people lose.
Well, I think it's all about support, isn't it? It is a thought, isn't it? But
Yes.
it is about support, and Weight Watchers is really about helping people through group settings. And if you think about it, £3 million, and it's all about people talking and going down to the local library or wherever they sign up, but it's about a joint group getting together saying, yes, we're going to make a difference.
That's not only a whole football team, that's the whole National Football League or the English Soccer League or whatever.
Or
that
something
you're
like that.
losing in weight. But how do you do that? I mean, do you cajole them? Do you scold them? Do you plead with them? Do you lecture with them? What do you
No,
do?
I think it's about education on what are the side effects of being overweight and what disease, diabetes or what other diseases stem from being obese or being overweight. I mean, it's not just about health and fitness and nutrition. It's about the whole package, the heart problems that stem from it, and various other things.
And emotional problems.
And emotional problems. Well, emotional problems, that was my problem. I ate to compensate for my feelings.
Right.
And a lot of people think, no, I'm fine, I'm all right, and then they go and eat 5 cookies, you know? It's the thing of why do you not want to look at your own problems?
You wrote very frankly in Rosie's magazine about depression, about the fact that you were really down at one point. And is that equated in your mind, eating and depression and tough times?
No question about it. In my case, when I'd managed to make a complete nonsense of my life, whether it be financial, whether I'd gone through a divorce, I just thought I was worthless. And so what I did was I got very sad and very down, and I ate and ate and ate and got larger and larger and larger and then beat myself up even more, and it's that vicious circle. And you never think you can get off the carousel ride, but you just can, you know. You can with support, and that's what really we're saying in Waukesha County.
That's a great phrase, making a nonsense of my life. I mean, it's a wonderfully light phrase, and yet and yet it really bespeaks of very tough, I mean, it's a light phrase connected to very tough times that you were going through.
Well, it's just, you know, to publicly self-humiliate yourself is something...
Did you feel that way, really?
Something quite huge to do, isn't it?
Did you really feel that way?
Oh, absolutely. It was
Really?
rock bottom, yeah, rock bottom.
And the weight loss then brought back the self-esteem and was a critical way to reverse that?
No, taking charge of my life. Taking charge of my finances, taking charge of the way I was going to go forward, and actually getting forward and not sitting in a corner shaking was kind of an achievement.
So, and weight was just one aspect of
weight
that.
wasn't. Weight, well, no, weight was the symptom of how bad I was feeling.
Right.
And so so everyone could see I was getting larger. There must be some problem, you know. And the thing is I then dealt with all my issues, and in dealing with it, I'm sitting here today with a little more confidence.
Yeah, and you're going to do that all for an entire county of people in Waukesha.
Well, we can have a go, can't we?
Let me ask you about something that got a lot of publicity in this country, and I'm sure in England. And I know you're very uncomfortable with questions about the royal family, but it was so publicized in this country. A journal, The Spectator in London, which is thought to have very close ties to Buckingham Palace, said that after the celebration of the Queen's 50th year in the throne in 2002, that she will go ahead and give her approval to a marriage between Prince Charles and Camilla. Your reaction to that article?
I think it's rather wonderful that they were obviously in the room when all this was being discussed.
Doesn't the family, though, sometimes use journals to get out just float a trial balloon, in effect?
Well, the great thing is I don't do that. So whether they do it or not, I have no idea. And it would be very incorrect of me to make a judgment on that. But I always love it when they do front pages and they say, this is what's going to happen, and this is, you know, who's going to do this. But I'd love to know if they're actually sitting in the bedroom or the room or the sitting room and all these things are discussed.
But maybe they get a call from somebody who knows what's going on at the palace.
But isn't, in America and in politics, isn't spinning, what is spinning, Charlie?
Well, spinning is getting out your point of view, trying to put your interpretation on something.
So do you think there is a lot of spinning done in politics and various other places?
Sure.
Well...
Sure. But do you think this one is spun correctly? On that note, we will thank you for being here. It's good to have you here as always.
Charlie.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
It is now 48 minutes after 8. More from Fashion Week in just a moment. Stay with us.
Trust in me in all you do. Have the faith I have in you. Love will see us through if only you trust in me. Trust me now.
With Weight Watchers, every food has a points value. And now every point works harder than ever. Introducing Winning Points, the way to stay satisfied. Eat what you like and still stay within your daily points range. So you stick with it and lose.
Now, take it off and show it off. Enter Weight Watchers Take It Off, Show It Off sweepstakes. Win a fabulous new $10,000 wardrobe.
Now's the time to join Weight Watchers. For pricing and location information, call 301-770-4115.
Looking for home furnishing of exceptional value and quality? Then come to Galahans and see a wide selection of the area's finest furniture, all at 30 to 50% off every day. Discover the unique shopping experience of Galahans. And right now, receive up to $1,000 back on Century Savoy. From traditional to transitional, Galahans is your complete home furnishing destination. Take I-95 south to Fredericksburg, Virginia. Come for the selection, buy for the discounts.
Morning. How'd you sleep?
Good.
I slept great. Must be that fresh mountain air, you know? Nothing like it. Oh, man.
Introducing the Jetta wagon, with room for 70 cubic feet of anything.
Ah, the great outdoors.
If a football hero accused of murder is news for months, if every Capitol Hill scandal merits weeks of coverage, how much attention do 2.5 million dead merit? It's a story we should have brought you long ago. This week on Nightline, we'd like to make up for that by finally telling you about the beauty and the tragedy of Congo. 3 years, 2.5 million dead. We thought you should know.
We want to tell you what we know as we know it. We just got a report in that there's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City. One report said, and we can't confirm any of this, that a plane may have hit one of the two towers of the World Trade Center. But again, you're seeing the live pictures here. We have no further details than that. We don't know anything about what they have concluded happened there this morning, but we're going to find out and, of course, make sure that everybody knows on the air.
These are, of course, the two twin Trade Center buildings that are down at the foot of Manhattan, that they really are the beacons of New York. It was there that there was the explosion a couple of years ago, brought about by terrorists. That's all gone through the courts, but this we don't know anything about. We don't know about anything that has happened here other than the fact that there's obviously been a major incident there, and we're going to go to a special report now from ABC News.
This is an ABC News special report.
Now, by the entire ABC network, Good Morning America was in progress in the East Coast and the Midwest, but we're joined by the entire network just to show you some pictures at the foot of New York City. This is at the World Trade Center. Obviously, a major fire there, and there has been some sort of explosion. We don't fully know the details. There is one report, as of yet unconfirmed, that a plane has hit the World Trade Center, and you can see that there is smoke there coming out of at least two sides of the building.
And as you said, there are two towers, the tallest structures in Manhattan, on the island of Manhattan. We're trying to get people on the telephone to see what more we can learn. We have no idea if it was a plane. Was it in any sense deliberate? Was it an accident? It does seem to be that there is considerable and truly terrifying damage on some of those floors at the top.
This angle is a little deceptive. As you know, there are two Trade Center towers, and the second tower there is hidden behind the first. This is really almost the picture postcard of New York City. It's that and the Empire State Building, I guess, are the two most recognizable symbols of New York. There you can see the two, well, we had there for just briefly the other angle of the World Trade Center towers, but this is confined to one of the towers on the upper floors. These buildings, I think they're 110 stories each, so this would be in the top 15 or 20 floors there.
You mentioned earlier that, of course, as we all know, years ago there was that terrorist attack. It took place down on the ground and in the underground levels and the garage levels. But again, that's not to imply that we have any reason at this point to believe that this is terrorism or not. We simply don't know. And in just a few minutes, Peter Jennings is going to be joining us from the news desk uptown, where he's going to tell us everything that he knows. We also have Don Dahler on the phone, and you know he's been with us on Good Morning America for a long time. And Don, where are you, and what do you know?
I'm about 4 or 5 blocks just north of the World Trade Center, and at about 10 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, there was a loud sound that I can only describe as it sounded like a missile, not an airplane. Then there was a loud explosion, and immediately lots of screaming out on the streets. And I don't want to cause any speculation, but that's the only way I could describe the sound, and it was definitely not the sound of a prop plane or anything like that.
And am I right? Are you a pilot?
Well, I have flown. I do not have a pilot's license. But I grew up on military bases, and I know the sound of jets, and I've been in war zones and heard those kinds of different sounds. So, again, not to cause any kind of undue speculation, but the sound itself was not of a prop plane. It was perhaps a jet, but it could have been a missile as well.
Can you give me, was it a whining sound, Don, or what?
Yes, it was a how to describe it? It was a high-pitched, but it had a whooshing sound, not like a prop plane.
Huh. And you didn't see anything actually in the air?
No, I wasn't looking out, but we looked out immediately. You can see quite a lot of damage. If it was an airplane, it had to be huge because it hit way up in the World Trade Center. I would say it's probably a good 5-6 of the way up to the top. There's a considerable amount of flame. There's damage on two sides that I can see. On the very north-facing side, there's where looks like is the largest amount of damage. There's a gigantic hole that encompasses a number of floors. I would say maybe 10 to 15 floors. And then on the left side, which would be the east side, there's considerable damage as well, and lots of flames and smoke coming out of it.
You know, I don't know that people outside New York realize it, but these two buildings are essentially cities in and of themselves. I mean, there's 30 to 40,000 people, if I remember the number, and I'm doing this from memory.
Yes.
Number of people who actually work in these buildings, and this obviously occurred at the time that people were coming to work.
Don, are you saying that this sound was striking enough that you heard it before you saw it?
I noticed it before the explosion. I noticed a sound like something was very low and shrieking across the sky. And then I heard the explosion.
And which of the two towers is this? Because, again, we're just seeing an angle that's a little deceptive.
This is the West Tower.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're hearing somewhat faintly in the background, Don, as you talk to us, sirens. Are there a lot of emergency vehicles already on the scene?
Yeah, they're descending. This part of New York City has quite a few emergency stations all over, and I imagine it sounds like they're coming from every one of the stations. In fact, there's one just down the street that sounds like every truck they have is headed that way.
We see, actually, we see two faces. I know you can't see the picture that our audience is seeing, but we see two faces of that tower. One seems to have a rather gaping large hole in it. The other face seems to have two holes in it. It's all somewhat obscured by smoke, one large, one somewhat smaller.
Right.
And, of course, we know there are a variety of offices there. There are financial offices there. There are advertising offices, all kinds. We can only hope that since it is still a little bit early in New York, that maybe on some of those floors, some of the offices were still not open for business.
You can now see there on that one side, well, you can see flames now coming actually out of two sides of the building, and I'm minimizing actually the number of openings that are on those two faces of the World Trade Center. There's multiple, it looks like, holes
with fire
or openings
still going on.
On both sides of the tower.
As we've heard before, we said earlier that there was at least one speculative report that an airplane had crashed in, whether deliberately or accidentally, we don't know. And there are continuing reports from people who say that they saw an airplane, one woman saying that she saw a jet going in. So again, Don, a jet screaming that low could be consistent with what you heard?
Absolutely. It could be consistent with what I heard. What I know I did not hear was an airplane, any kind of a prop plane. And I think looking at the damage, I don't think there's any way possible that it would have been a prop plane. It's just too much damage to the building. What's deceptive about the World Trade Center is that it is so huge and so tall that the perspective is difficult to get from the ground. But when you look at the size of the hole, and if you look in context at one of the helicopters going around at a lower size, a helicopter is about the size of a regular Cessna, that kind of thing, the body of the plane. The hole is so much larger than that helicopter that it would have to, if it was a jet, I would have to speculate that it would have to be a larger than normal jet. I mean, larger than like a Citation or something like that. It's just such a gigantic hole, and it blew out the other side. And again, these buildings are almost a city block size building. So for it to have blown in this hole on the north side as well as the west side, it had to be a gigantic explosion.
Well, obviously we don't know if this was if it was a plane, and I underline if it was. We don't know if it would have been deliberate or accidental. We know so little now other than what we can see from these pictures. But the interesting point is there are a number of small airports around New York where passenger corporate jets or private jets will land and take off. And it's not uncommon, if you have ever visited the World Trade Center, when you go up to the observation platforms at the top, you can look down on airplanes that are either coming in for landings or taking off from New York airports. But all pilots who fly in this area know very well where the World Trade Center is located. All the routes are very far or comfortably far away from the two towers.
And not just private planes, too, because with some winds in some directions, even out of the big commercial airports, planes are routed quite close to New York. I've flown in from LaGuardia, even into LaGuardia, but having to go right by the World Trade Centers.
But we emphasize this is all speculative at this point. And just to reset for all of you, this is a special report from ABC News, and we are dealing, and we have to underline this, we are dealing purely in the realm of speculation here as to what may have happened at the World Trade Center. Obviously, a major incident occurred here on the upper floors of one of the World Trade Center towers. You can see multiple openings and flames coming out of at least two sides of the tower at the World Trade Center. And
we just got a report that the Associated Press is now reporting that it was an aircraft. So that's one more witness weighing in, or at least one more source weighing in on the fact that it was an aircraft of some kind.
And as Don Dahler reported, this occurred about 15 or 20 minutes ago in downtown New York. And New York time, that would have been about 20 minutes or 8:45. This is a time when literally tens of thousands of people are coming to work at the World Trade Center.
Looking at the top of the building, you mentioned there's an observation center, and I don't know what time it opens, but I think it opens fairly early, and people are up there at all hours of the day. Families, tourists coming in to look at the city of New York from atop it. Also there, I don't know if this is the building that has the restaurant on top of it as well, but in those high floors, there are places where tourists team in the morning, even if the regular workers weren't in. And we remind you again that there was a terrorist bomb that did go off at the World Trade Center years ago. It was down in the garage level, but we have no
Obviously,
reason,
no
as we say
indication
over
that
and
this
over
could have
again,
been related to
speculate
that.
in that way.
Right. Don Dahler, ABC's Don Dahler, who is on the scene. Don, just give me some description again of what you can see now.
What we're seeing, it appears that there is more and more fire and smoke enveloping the very top of the building. And as fire crews are descending on this area, it does not appear that there's any kind of an effort up there yet. Now remember, oh my God.
Oh my God.
That looks like a second plane.
I did not see a plane go in. That just exploded.
We just saw another plane coming in from the side.
You did. That was out of
Yes, and that's
view.
the second explosion. You could see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center that is underway in downtown New York.
We will see that scene again just to make sure we saw what we thought.
We're going to give you a replay of what we just saw, and I must admit I thought it was some sort of fire equipment coming in or some sort of observation plane, but it was obviously designed to attack the World Trade Center. We're going to show you that. Here's a replay of the videotape. In a second, that looks like a good-sized plane came in and hit the World Trade Center from the other side. So this is obviously, or would seem to be, and again, I'm dealing in speculation, but it would seem like there is a concerted attack against one of the towers of the World Trade Center underway.
We had seen a plane coming in from the other direction earlier. I'd noticed it. Had you, Charlie? I didn't know if it was that plane that then circled wide and came back from another direction, but we all watched it. And I just assumed.
Don, could you hear that? Could you hear that plane as it came in?
I did not hear that plane, but I had to step inside the window because the fire crews were so loud, the sirens, that I couldn't hear you.
I got you.
I did see the explosion, but the side of the building that the plane entered was just outside of my view. So all I saw was this huge fireball and the explosion.
Well, the shot that we've got is now just from one side of the World Trade Center. But this is the shot again. This is moments ago of this second plane coming in, and this is now in slow motion. Oh, this is terrifying, awful.
To watch powerless is a horror.
They waited for the coverage. They waited for the coverage.
All right, we're going to go back to live coverage. Now you're looking at live pictures, and there is the second fire, which was brought about by this second plane that hit the tower. And Don, from everything I can see, it was the same tower that was hit the first time, right?
No, it's the second tower.
It's the other tower.
It is the other tower that was hit.
My mistake.
They targeted it. From what I'm seeing on the television, from your view, they are the two towers are in, one is in front of the other one, but it was definitely the second tower that was hit about halfway down, not quite as high. And from my view here, it does not seem to be as big, as much damage as the original. I don't know if that means it was not as big a plane or what. I did not see the plane go in, but it's horrendous damage. But it doesn't seem to be the gaping hole through two sides of the building like on the first one.
Don, from your vantage point, can you see if there are people coming out down below?
I can't see the bottom of the base of the buildings.
There's the wider shot of the two towers. Now, both towers have been hit by planes now in the last half hour. And again, I say we are totally powerless in knowing what's going on here, except that it would obviously appear, it can't be a coincidence like this. It would obviously be some sort of a concerted attack against both towers of the World Trade Center. This is again, we're going to show for the third time this tape of the airplane flying in and hitting the World Trade Center. This is slow motion of the plane coming in and hitting the obscured second tower of the World Trade Center. And you can see flame coming out, and I can't see the plane coming down. You know, if it just
Charlie, that's a commercial-sized jet. That did not look like.
No, that's a good-sized airplane. Yes.
Yeah, that's not a little commuter plane. That was a good-sized jet.
And I can't tell if it actually flew into the building or if it just clipped it with a wing. And if it did, of course, then there's the frightening prospect that the plane would have crashed right on the streets of very busy streets of New York.
Yeah.
It seems, and this is a small hope, that the fire may have gone out from the first site. I don't know if we can get the camera in close or not. It doesn't mean that the smoke isn't still terrifying and deadly.
Diane, I can see from here the orange flames. The fire has not gone out. In fact, it looks as if it's encompassing a part of the building that was not initially part of the original explosion. I can see it moving over to the left side, which would be the east side of the first building, almost all the way over to the edge. The back side is totally enveloped in flames that I can see from here.
Yes, with that kind of smoke, there's got to be an awful lot of flame in there. And I think all of us have thought at one point or another about the fact that these buildings, though they are so majestic as they stand above the skyline of New York, that it's very difficult for emergency workers or firefighters to fight these. We have a witness who was called in to speak to us. His name is Karim Haroki. Mr. Haroki, did you, as I understand, they're telling me in my ear, is it true that you witnessed the first plane hit the tower?
Yeah.
Could you give me some sort of a description of it?
I was sitting in my car here in Greenwich, you know. I just saw the plane is coming down from the left side and going straight to the building, you know, and going inside.
It actually went inside the building?
Excuse me?
It flew right into the building?
I saw it coming from the left, and I saw the plane coming through to the building. I go inside. It's a small plane.
You say small plane. Was it a jet?
Excuse me?
Was it a jet plane?
No, it was plane, you know, like they teach the people for the plane is like a small plane, you know. It's that kind of plane.
You mean like a small single or double engine
yeah, double
plane.
engine, yeah.
Right, and it actually went into the building there on the upper floors.
Yeah, going into the building. And I never saw that plane before. It's like something, I don't know, it's like they work with the motors. I never saw a plane like that before. Yeah.
All right,
my car, she's nice.
Mr. Haroki, you are down in that area right now then?
Yeah, I'm in Greenwich here on North Mall Street.
Can you tell if there's a large number of fire equipment and emergency equipment on the scene?
Excuse me?
Can you see fire equipment or emergency equipment on the scene?
I don't know. The fire is upstairs in the building, and the second plane is the other building too.
And did you see the second plane come in?
Yeah, I saw the second plane is go boom. I heard it, you know. I just wake up my head like that. I saw it inside too.
And that second plane much larger than the first?
Same. The same. Both same.
They're both the same?
Yeah.
Because the pictures we see, the second plane looks rather large.
No, it's not right. It's going inside too. It's going inside of the building too. And the second hole, it's smaller than the other one.
And it actually also penetrated the building. You could see it go in.
Yeah, it's inside. It's inside. It's inside. No plane is outside. Nothing.
Now, can you see if there are people fleeing the building? We don't have shots yet from street level. Can you see if there are people leaving the building?
No, I can't see because I told you on the Northmore and Greenwich, I just saw up the building. I can't see downstairs.
So you're in Greenwich Village?
Yeah, I mean, no, in Greenwich Street and Northmore.
Oh, I see, on Greenwich Street. Okay, yeah. I can. That's just to locate people who don't know New York. That is right in the vicinity, right nearby, but not actually on the site of the World Trade Centers. ABC's Peter Jennings is at the anchor desk uptown here in New York and is now in position. Peter, I suspect you are looking at exactly the same pictures. Well, I know you're looking at the same pictures we are.
We are, Charlie. We've been watching it from the beginning, and we'll be watching this for much of the day. There is chaos in New York at the moment. There have been not one but two incidents, as Charlie and Diane have so ably reported so far. The second one coming at 9:03, when television was on live, and you could see what was clearly a jet aircraft flying into the second trade tower. Both trade towers now, these 110-story high towers, have now been hit. There is chaos here, or there's chaos in the immediate area. There is confusion in Washington, because now everybody is engaged in this. The Pentagon is involved in this. All the intelligence services are engaged at this in the morning. And as we look at those towers, let's just simply keep looking at these towers this morning. And if you have the feed at home, I actually don't have it here, so somebody could please make sure that I have the photo picture of what's going on. The various airports in the area, Newark and LaGuardia particularly, have already suspended operations. The city asked the Federal Aviation Administration for permission to close down airspace in all of New York, lest there be a third aircraft or some other untoward incident involved. And ABC's John Miller is with me here, who's been listening efficiently to all of his police sources. And John, I gather the city is ordering a major evacuation from a number of public buildings and a number of these very high-profile targets.
They're going into what they call an Archangel operation, which is a code name for essentially a major lockdown of the city, evacuating the United Nations building, the municipal building, City Hall, Gracie Mansion, which is the mayor's residence, all things that could be considered